Shalom. This Saturday night and Sunday is Lag BaOmer, and it is the day that we celebrate the greatness of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, also known as the Rashbi, Rosh Tevos of his name. It's a discussion as to whether that's really his yurt site. Lag BaOmer is the day that the plague for Rabbi Akiva's students ended. He had 24,000 students. They all died in a plague. Then later on, he had 5 students. As an old man, Rabbi Shimon was one of them, and these were the ones that succeeded. And Rabbi Shimon is considered uniquely greater than all of them. It's like the commentaries on Yoseph HaTzadik, where they say that all of the brothers, all of the children of Yaakov were wise and righteous, but when it came to Yoseph, he was the elite among them, and he was much smarter and much more righteous than they were. It also results in him being misunderstood or not understood, and we see that a lot with Rabbi Shimon. It's written in the Gemara that when he was talking about himself, he says, I have seen B'nai Aliyah, the children of ascension, and they are very few. If there are 2 of them, it includes me and my son. The Gemara raises an objection to that and says, but doesn't it say that there are 18,000 people who receive the divine presence every day? And the reply is that there are many tzaddikim, but you have a small number of them, 36, where they have what is called a clear crystal. Their crystal ball is clear, so to speak. Nobody can really understand Hashem fully, but there are some of people who see God, Kaviyochel, through as if they're looking at him through a window. And there are others that see him as if they are looking at him through glass that is very fogged. You can see something on the other side, but the details you don't really make out so well. In the case of Rabbi Shimon, it's someone who saw the picture of Hashem with a high degree of clarity, where others only had a lower degree of clarity. It wasn't anywhere near his. Okay? Concerning him, his teacher, Rabbi Akiva, said to him he didn't want to place him as the leader of the Jewish people or as the leader of the students. And Rabbi Shimon was somewhat upset about that because he felt that perhaps he really had fallen short of the mark. And Rabbi Akiva consoled him, saying that it's enough that I, in your Creator, recognize your kochos, your talents, your abilities, your greatness. It's all in subdued language very often. In the song of his praise, it quotes the Psalms, Shemen Sason Mecha Vereka, the oil of joy more so than your friends. The idea of oil, which we would say the fuel of simcha, that he made people happier more so than anybody else. Later on, this song talks about his wisdom, saying that it's Rom v'mala, as I recall, high and exalted. And also that people can look at it, but it just stuns their eyes, or they start to fall asleep. In other words, the knowledge that he was able to gather was really beyond the capability of most people. Now, getting into the details of his reasoning, especially as it relates to Halacha, very often people say that he looked at intentions, and in fact he did. It was more a case that he considered intentions and actions, both of them together, as components of a particular mitzvah. Very often with his interlocutor, Rabbi Yehuda, again a very great Talmid Chacham, a Talmudic sage, he tends to look at very strongly at the language and the action. He does not look so much at the intention. And one of the places where it shows up is in the laws concerning Shabbos, what is forbidden and what is permitted on Shabbos. There's what you call a davar she'eno miskavim, something that you do not intend to do. Okay, and the discussion revolves around someone dragging a bed over a field, and the legs of the bed may or may not chop up the ground, therefore it resembles plowing. And Rabbi Yehuda says, well, plowing is one of the forbidden activities on Shabbos. You can't do it. Rabbi Shimon would say that the classic point of view is that because he was not intending to do plowing, he was only intending to drag a bed, that it would be permissible. However, it's really a bit more than that, because one of the things that Rabbi Shimon does forbid is what they call a psik reisha, literally removing its head. The idea, somewhat grisly, is that at one time children would use the skull of a chicken as a ball. So in order to get the head of the chicken, a person would have to do a shechita on it. They'd have to slaughter it. And the shechita is the exact same action as a person would do when they are slaughtering the chicken to eat its meat, which is the typical thing that a person does when they want to eat chicken. Rabbi Shimon would say you cannot do that on Shabbos for the sake of just separating its head, even though your intention is for something that is not the ordinary act. You're doing the act precisely. Therefore, you can't do it. This is different from dragging the bed, where one does not plow by dragging a bed. You use a plow and a horse and that type of thing. Therefore, we would say you are not truly performing the act of plowing. On top of that, one may not even, it's quite possible that a person may not even break up the ground while they're dragging the bed. So between the fact that the action that is forbidden may not occur at all, and even if it does, it's not being done in the normal way, and on top of that, the person really is not intending to do that, he would say that it is mutar to drag the bed. Okay, it goes more deeper than that, though. What he is saying basically is that this really isn't the type of work that the Torah is intending to prohibit on Shabbos. You're not supposed to be engaged in your parnasah, and really if a person just needs a bed to sleep on and they're dragging it, they're really not engaged in their parnasah. In addition to that, it would seem he was much more sensitive to inconvenience and bother and things that were illogical. Therefore, because there's a specious connection between dragging a bed and plowing, one should not bother themselves to prohibit it, and they shouldn't bother themselves to do without the bed, okay? Simply because of a shallow connection that you could force the words to say that they apply to that. He would say they really don't, okay? You also have, okay, going more into the issue of intentions, you have the story of how he had to hide out from the Romans, where Rabbi Yehuda said that this is a good nation. How pleasant is this nation, that they have built baths and they have put up bridges and they have put up marketplaces, so to speak, shopping malls. And Rabbi Shimon disagreed. He says that their intentions were just for their own benefit, saying that in some cases specifically bad. He said that for the baths it was just for animal pleasure, okay, in you pampering yourself. In the case of the bridges, they wanted to make some money on the tolls. In the case of the marketplaces, it was a place where you could be prostitutes. Okay? In other words, their intentions were not at all for the sake of heaven. So what he is saying is that just because the action of a person or a group results in a certain amount of good, you cannot really consider them good if there is a total absence of intention for the sake of heaven. Okay? That is what he was saying. You had to at least have some of the right intention in order to make a value judgment that these were good people. Okay? You also have the issue of being doresh the taman lemitzvot, exploring or examining the reasons for mitzvahs. Okay, where again you would have like the text of the Chumash, and one of the prohibitions is taking collateral or as collateral the garment of a widow. The idea is that you're supposed to be merciful and kind to widows because they have enough trouble as it is. Therefore, to start taking property from them in connection with a loan, you shouldn't do that. So you have the question comes up as to, well, what if it's a rich widow as opposed to a poor widow? Would it be permissible to take the garment of a rich widow who has a lot of clothes as collateral? Okay? And Rabbi Shimon says you may, and the other side of the argument says that you may not. Why may you may not? Well, that's what it says. So Rabbi Shimon says that really the point of this is that it also says that you can, if you take a pledge from a poor person of a garment, say his blanket, and the person needs it at night, you must return it to him at night, and then you take it in the morning. The idea being that he's not going to run off with the collateral at night. He has to use it. He has to go to sleep, and he needs it to keep warm. And during the day, you'll get it back. So in case he doesn't pay off the loan, you can look to the collateral, but you must return it when he needs it. Okay. Now, when you're talking about a woman, this creates a problem in that it looks like she is receiving guests for the night. She's a prostitute, okay? Lends itself to that observation. And therefore, for a widow, you don't do that. Okay? The problem that you run into is if you're really concerned that this person, this widow is not going to pay back the debt, and you will have to take possession of the collateral, you may not make her the loan. Okay? Say, well, you just can't have the money. You're going to have to, whatever will be. I don't want to give you this as a gift. Okay? Therefore, if you extend that reasoning to a rich widow, you're doing her a disservice, because she is not going to have her reputation compromised, and as a result of that, you really should make the loan and you should take the collateral. It comes out that Rabbi Shimon is really being lenient, but the lenience comes to being kinder and more logical. And his kindness and his righteousness and his reasoning, those are very strong in Rabbi Shimon. Part of the reason that people don't look to intentions is because they don't have the perception to do so, or their own intentions aren't so good, therefore they don't want to make an issue of it. Okay? In the case of someone who is perceptive and really is righteous, he is going to look to them, but more so, he is going to recognize the goodness of Hashem, and he is going to see that in examining the Chumash, that there's a writer to the Chumash, and the text of the Chumash reflects upon the nature of the writer. Therefore, it's appropriate to get to know the writer of the Chumash through his work, and in doing so, you will see his wisdom and benevolence, and in this way you will interpret his laws wisely and benevolently, and become more wise and benevolent yourself. Thank you. Shalom, shalom.